another building block. So the title of our lesson today is The Best Investment. The best investment. You know, when we look at investing, and I'm not a financial person by any means, it gets confusing. You know, what do I invest in? Why do I invest in it? What do I get back? How much? When? You know, it's so many variables when it comes to investing our money. And we think about that from the standpoint of our money is valuable to us, right? That's why it's hard to invest. It'll be easy if we invest in something with no value. We're like, oh, well, if we lose it, we lose it. But your money is valuable to you. So when you look to invest, you want to make sure you invest in something that you can do what? Make some more money, right? You don't want to lose no money, because you lose some money, that hurt. It ain't worth it, right? But we always think of investments in terms of money. But investing is also the act of devoting time, effort, or energy in a particular thing with the expectation of getting something in return, right? That's the whole purpose. So what are you investing? And the thing about investment, we have to think about our time. You know, what do you do on a daily basis? Where does your time go? Assess your time. Where's your time go usually? Think back. What did you do yesterday? What about the day before that? What about the day before that? Work, right? Work. Then when you weren't working, what were you doing? You sit down, may relax, may put your feet up, you eat, right? And you just take a lot of time. And see where all this time goes. Well, a lot of us as Americans spend a lot of time on screens. Screen time, right? Now the average American, take a guess, how much time y'all think the average American spend on the screen? Phone, TV, 20 hours a day. In a day, how much time you think? It's actually a little less, about 7.5 hours a day. Now think about it though. How long does it take the average day for a person to be in school or at work? About 8 hours a day. So about that much time people spend on a screen, right? Now when we talk about screen, that's even without the TV. If you add in the TV, then it goes up to about 10 to 12 hours of time in front of a screen. Now, how much of that is quality time versus mental junk food, right? Just silly video after silly video, goofy show after goofy show. You know, we ain't a lot of times looking at documentaries or something that's teaching us anything. We're just looking at stuff. And you know you're looking at just stuff when the commercial come on and something happened and you forgot what you were watching. Commercials don't last but what, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4. And by the second or third commercial, what am I watching? What? Oh yeah, the lady hurt the other lady. You know, you don't know. It jump out of your head just that quick. That means that it doesn't even do anything. It's just there. A lot of people think that, you know, they say develop your mind. And a lot of people make the mistake of when somebody's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's to sit them in front of the TV so it allow their mind to move. Well, when they put the sensors on your brain actually decreases when you're watching TV. It actually does nothing for the person. It's just people. It's almost like sitting at the mall and just watching people walk back and forth. Because you're not following. It's just in the background. How many times do you have the TV on and looking at your phone and just waiting for the exciting scene? My kids do it all the time. We go to look at a movie, I got to tell them to put their phone down. By the end of the movie, they don't even know what happened. Or they ask me, what happened? Because they waiting for the exciting part. But you forgetting you got to watch the build up so that you know what the exciting part was for. You don't even know why that man is after that man because you was in your phone. Your phone made a noise and it's burning your pocket, burning your hand because you got to see what that noise was, right? So it's always on us. But when we think about this, what's the results? Well, and this is just science, right? Science says that it results in poor sleep quality. Can't go to sleep, right? It results in physical health risks, okay? Poor posture, hunched over, right? Eye strain. People blink 60% less when they're looking at a screen because you got to see what's happening. Depression, anxiety, because of the things that are going on the screen. So this is just for your information. We spend about 150 days a year screen time. Now, that's an investment. And I don't know how accurate this is, but I throw it out there because there's the algorithm behind the screen time. And I think I just share this with y'all. So depending on what country you go to, depends on what algorithm is written. A lot of the things that we spend our time on were not written in this country. They were developed elsewhere. If you go elsewhere, you pull up some of these social media apps. Did you know that there's an algorithm that tells you what video is going to come up next? So as you scroll down, it gives you another video, right? There's an algorithm behind that. If you go to other countries, the algorithm is written to show people, young people being innovative, young people inventing things, young people doing things that are outside the box, starting businesses and doing things. You can still find the silly videos. They're out there, but you have to search for them. But what is putting in front of you is a lot of positivity. Here, we get dance videos, nasty videos, inappropriate videos, silly videos, and you got to go search for the stuff that's positive. But who's going to search for that? Because you want a quick laugh. I'll just leave that with you. Y'all do with that what you will, parents. So when we think about it, it takes time to invest in this stuff. I just told you 150 days. What could you do with 150 days put into the right thing? What would you get back? This is just one part of our life. Now, when we think about it, this is a beautiful saying. We're going to get into some scripture, don't worry. Screenwriter for Back to the Future wrote something. I want you to listen to this. He said, time is the only thing money can't buy. It cannot be replaced in any way. Time only goes one way so far, and we never get it back. You never know what the future will bring unless you invest in today. So when you think about it, you don't know what's going to happen, but you know that whatever happened in the past, you won't get it back. But we spend a lot of time looking back, trying to figure out what we did, but we spend not very much time looking ahead, trying to figure out what we're going to do. So if you're trying to turn the next chapter in your life, why you keep rereading the old chapter? In order to go forward, you got to stop rereading the old stuff. You got to look ahead. But the biggest investment you can make is in Christ. But what does that take? It takes sacrifice. Hard to say it, but it is. Sacrifice. We do it all the time for things we deem worthy. We sacrifice our time for people, be it for love, commitment, meaning you just, hey, this is my friend, this is my buddy. So you do things for them that you might not do for other people. You sacrifice. And our sacrifices or investments are usually worth it. That person is worth it, or it's worth me doing this. Why is it worth you going to work? You don't do it just because you like that place. You do it because you know they're going to give you something when you get through. It's an investment of time, right? You don't just say, I love y'all so much. Just give me whatever you got. I'm good. Thank you. I just take them little pennies. No, you owe me for my time, right? And if you ask somebody to do something, my dad told me the biggest thing I learned about what my dad did. A lady called him one time, middle of the night, and her faucet was leaking. We had to drive across town. Notice I say we. He didn't need me, but of course I had to go. I don't know why. But we ended up over there late at night, and he went in there, got some little plumbing tape, wrapped it around there, and screwed this thing about 3 times. All right, they got it. That'll be about $85. I was like, God. I'm about 13. I just stand out, I ain't saying nothing. I'm just wide out. $85 is $85. That's all. So I got, why you charge that lady $85? He said, that's my time. I had to get up, drive all the way over here, come all the way back. And I said, dog, I spent some time too. How much I get? He said, when you get in the house, them lights come on. You good. Oh, okay. But she had to pay him not for just, but for his time. So we have to think about our time is important. So you think about how much time you give to people. People always demanding your time. Your job demanding your time. Your spouse, your kids, right? Anything that's around you is taking up your time. But where you are in control, are you giving any of that time to God? Are you willing to sacrifice any of that time? Now, what does he ask for? Go to John 14. John 14:15. He says, if you love me, keep my commands. Go to 14:21. Jump down to 14:21. He says, whoever has my commands and keeps them is the one who loves me. The one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love them and show myself to them. Now, jump over to 1 John 5:3. You're going to build on this. He says, in fact, this is love for God, to keep his commands, and his commands are not burdensome. So we see that all he asks us to do is keep his commands, and his commands aren't even a heavy load. They're easy. They're just for you, right? So it's not a heavy ask. Now jump over to Matthew 22. Go to 36. Matthew 22 and 36. We got to figure out what these commands are, right? He says, teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? That's what he's asking Jesus. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets hang on these two commandments. So now we know there are other things that Jesus wants us to do. We've seen that, right? When we look in there, he tells, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples. If you do what? Love one another. Now I'm going somewhere with this, but I want y'all to follow me. So you want to say, well, how do I do this? How do I love? How do I be God's disciple? How do I follow him? So in the gospel, Jesus is depicted as someone who makes a claim on our lives, as someone who says, I have paid a price for you. You are mine, right? He makes a claim on our lives. And with that claim comes responsibility, okay? When my kids were born to me, with them being born came a responsibility. There was a responsibility from me to them, and as they grow up, there was a responsibility from them to me, right? They need to listen, pay attention, and do the things that I put in. Now, that may be different from the responsibility and agreement that you have with your family. At the core of it may be the same, respect and honor and love and all these things, but how you go about doing it may be different. And so Jesus has the same thing. There's an individual component to this that he puts in there that says, you will be led by my spirit. That's an individual relationship that I have with you, but there are some standard things that you need to do. The first standard thing is to love me and love other people, right? So be my disciple. But then he builds on this and go to Luke 9:23 and 25. Because we see if you love, you will be seen as my disciple, but it's going to take something to be a disciple. And he says in Luke 9:23 and 25 through 25, then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their self? So the first key to follow Jesus is self-denial. That's hard, right? Take up your cross and follow me. Deny yourself. Lose your life. Well, what's losing your life? Giving up some things that you want to do. Giving up things that may be comfortable, may be happy. So are your days filled with pursuits of things that you're interested in, but God may not be interested in? How much of what you do can you say, God, this interests you? Now, that ain't to say that you can't have no fun, but how much of your day is filled with fun? How much of your day is filled with just stuff that just you want to do? But God's like, I ain't interested in that. Think about your kids. How much of the stuff that you look at that they do that you ain't even interested in? That you be like, I can go without that. That ain't even funny to me. That ain't even interesting to me at all. And if you didn't say anything, how much of their time would be spent doing those activities? Probably all day. If I don't say that to my kids, they locked up in their room with a phone. You give a kid a phone, they fine. You don't even need to talk to them no more. They'll find something to do. And if you took that phone, it'd probably be 5% that you'd be like, oh, that's cute. But most of it, you'd be like, what is all this? Bunch of emojis and everything else that you're like, I can't even die. I don't even know what y'all talking about. But it's stuff, right? Just constant influencing. So when we think about it, you have to understand that as a human being, there are some things in your life that may not enhance your relationship with Christ. Don't mean it's bad, just may not be good for you. May just be bland, right? It's okay. But how much of that can you survive off of? Can your relationship spark off of? I want you to think about it. Think about a married couple. And this couple get married. And I'm going to pick on the wife in this situation. The wife, she's married. She finally found the love of her life. But she spends most of her day on the phone with her friends. When the husband get home from work, she still, I know, yeah, she did it. He just in there doing his thing. He leave. He come back. She on the phone with somebody else. He go. She come back. He on the phone with somebody else, and she talking. Then it's time to go to bed. Wake up, go to work, do the same thing again the next day. Then on Saturday, she go out, hang with her friends, right? Come home. He go. They go. She talking to another friend. It can happen, right? This ain't so far-fetched. How long you get this relationship? The connection ain't happening, right? They together, but they ain't together. Ain't a lot to build on. She there, but she not there. She off somewhere else. That's how we are a lot of times with God. We have to know that this means there are going to be moments in our day where what we do or what we want to do may not line up with what God wants us to do. There are going to be some times in your day that we and God are not going to want the same thing. In those times, we have to be willing to deny ourselves. And guess what he said? This is a form of death. This is a form of sacrificing this body and this flesh to say, I want to give it up and do what God wants me to do. And guess what that means? You are going to suffer. That's what suffering means, unpleasant. We always think about suffering for Christ. I'm doing the best I can, Lord. They just beating me down. I'm sitting here, I'm a champion for the Lord, but people don't want me to be. I'm suffering for Christ. No, suffering for Christ is anytime you want to do something and you can't, then that's suffering. I can't tell you how many times when I was a young kid that I suffered in the backseat of a car driving to church. I sure don't want to go do this, right? And it was hard. Music I don't want to listen to, conversations I don't want to do, clothes I don't want to put on, and I got to sit here and ride to this church again and stay all day. Knowing in the back of my mind, my friends ain't got to go, and they outside playing. By the time I get there, they through because they stay a long time. And usually with the second service, now they want you to go eat in between. Food I don't want. Company I don't want to be around. Conversation I don't. Hey, Lil Wayne. My name Reggie. I don't want to have this conversation with this grown man again at Shoney's. It's boring. Now we got to go back to church and do it again. This is my whole Sunday. Suffering. It was, right? But you suffer too. You don't want to read your Bible all the time. You don't want to pray. You don't want to think about nothing about God at this moment. You want to look at this show and just veg out. Just let it go. And when you do pray, you don't want to just get into it and be attentive. You want to pray to get it over with sometimes. But in those moments, you have to say, body, I'm going to make you mine because I got to give you over to God. And it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt. Some things that you want more, you got to suffer for. Dieting, exercise, it's suffering. It's hard. That's pain. Lift this again. I don't want to. The body don't want to. Well, do it again. Well, if I want what I want, I got to make it suffer a little bit. So you're going to have to make this mind, this flesh, these eyes, these lips, the tongue suffer a little bit. Because I want to say that. I want to do that. I want to taste that. I want to go there. I want to be with y'all. But I can't. Because I know I got to go somewhere else. I got to do something more. And the more that you do it, the more you can instill it in the other people to do the same thing. Because it's not easy. And you have to let your kids know it's not easy either. And you have to let your friends know I ain't going to be there all the time. There are going to be some times that I got to disconnect. That God going to need me to do something that ain't going to line up with what you want me to do. So I have to think in those terms. Simply put, is God worth the investment? Is he worth your time? Whatever you invest in, you are going to reap either the benefits or the consequences of it. When somebody is around somebody who is no good, they're going to reap the benefits of being around that person. Just going to happen. And you see it coming. Those your friends? Uh-oh. I know something. I can see it. I know this ain't going to line up just right for you. I'm sorry. But when I see somebody doing things over and over, does it mean you ain't going to slip? Does it mean you ain't going to stumble? Does it mean things aren't going to line up? Sometimes that's going to happen. But in the long run, this is going to pay off. I know it is because you're investing in the right things. And whenever you spend time with God and invest in God, it reciprocates because he invests in you. So when you invest in God, he invests in you. It's going to happen. So go to Matthew 25. Go to Matthew 25. When you spend time with him, he spends time with you. Now, in Matthew 25, verse 14, it talks about the parable of the talents. Not going to read the whole thing, but I want you to see some key things. In verse 14, he says, again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. So for one person, he gave 5 bags, right, of gold. And another one, he gave 2 bags, and these are talents. And then another one, 1. All right? And then jump down to 18. He said, the man who received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. And then in 19, he says, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. Okay? So we got in verse 18 and 19, the man came back and settled accounts, right? So we know the man went and he had 1 bag, right? Just 1 bag. He dug a hole and put it in the ground. Now, when he came back, the one with 5 bags said, I got 5 more, right? Here you go. The man with 2 bags said, I got 2 more. Here you go. And the man blessed him. He told him, you're going to have more because you got some benefits out of this. But in verse 24, this good old man with the 1 bag, he said, then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here it is, what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gathered where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back in interest. And you know, he took that bag of gold and gave it to the other man with the 5. And he told that man, you're going to gnash of teeth. Notice he called him lazy. He buried his money. Now, that man could have buried his own money before he left. He could have put it somewhere. He wasn't afraid of losing it. He gave it to him to do something with. And all he could do was think to bury it. Now, I want you to notice something here. He didn't say, you cautious man. He didn't say, you scary, man. You were scared you was going to lose my money. No, he said you were lazy because you didn't want to take the time to invest and try. You wanted to do what you wanted to do instead of doing what needed to be done to see what you could get back. If you would have took the time to give some of that time to me, you would have got something out of it. But you were lazy, and the only thing you did was dug a hole. It wasn't no deep hole, it was just a bag of gold. It don't take that much time. Put it in there, covered it up, and make sure nobody stole it, and went off and did what you wanted to do. So you just didn't do anything. At least you could have went to the bank and put it in there and got a little bit of something back. And if you go to the bank, how much time does that take? Not much time. But you didn't even want to give me that because you were lazy. So when you think about it, how many of us have been given so much by God and we're doing nothing with it? And the only thing we're doing is giving him back what he gave us. He didn't give it to us just to get it back. He wants something on it. He wants you to invest it and to get something out of it because that's his way of investing in you. Everything he gives you is his. You are his, but you can still reap the benefits of using what he's giving you in order to make something of yourself. But if we just sit there and say, I'm saved and I'm just going to be saved, that's it. And then when he come back, what did you do? Got saved. What else? Saved. Said I was saved. Can I go in there? Yeah, you can go in there, you lazy servant. He didn't say you were just going, he was just going to send you away. He said you're lazy. You're sorry. Look what you could have had. Look what you could have did. Look at so many people around. You see them all the time. Look at what they could have had. I want you to think about it. Everybody that you see have gone through something. But one thing they have gone through is time. They were all 15 or 16 at one point. And I'm not saying everybody had equal opportunity because we know this world ain't fair. But everybody had some kind of opportunity. What did they do with that opportunity? If they could go back in time, now that they 45, 50, 60, 30, 20, go back in time 15 years, what would they do different? Do you think they would have made the same choices? Do you think the people that come up to you and say, you know what, I had it hard. This didn't happen for me. That didn't happen for me. Well, let's play this game. If they could go back and everything was the same, would they do something different even though all that same stuff was going to happen? See, it all comes down to the decisions that we make. Things are going to happen that's not fair. Stuff is going to happen to you that ain't right. But what are you going to do about it? Because on one day, regardless of what happened to you, you have to stand and give an account. I don't know how many court cases we've seen where the man say, my daddy didn't treat me right, so I ain't treat my kids right. Well, guess what? You going to jail. I don't know about your daddy. Everybody got an excuse. We all got excuses. But what are you going to do? Because God said, I'm here. I can bring you through any excuse. I can bring you through any obstacle. I can bring you through any challenge. Didn't say it was going to be easy. Said we may have to suffer sometime. But guess what? A testimony is on the other side of the suffering. So the biggest mountain you climb, the bigger your testimony going to be. And you can help somebody else that's on the other side of that mountain, that it look like they can't make it. You can stand on top and say, hey, look, I made it. You see me? And they say, oh, it's somebody up there. This mountain is and can be conquered with the right tools. And guess who gave you the tools? God. But if he give you the tools to climb the mountain, and then you bury the tools at the base, say, I knew you were going to come after your tools back. And he's like, I'm waiting at the mountain for you to bring me the tools. I gave you the tools to climb the mountain. You buried them at the bottom and waited for me to come back to get you. And you buried the stuff I gave to bring you up here. Yes, I want my tools back, but I thought you was going to come up here and give them to me. Why you burying? Now you got my tools all dirty. They look worse than when I gave them to you. Oh, I'm sorry. I knew you were hard, man. I knew you were rough, demanding. So I just going to stay right here at the bottom of this mountain. That make any sense to y'all? No. But that's what we do. That's what we do when we sit there and don't do nothing with all that he gave us. So people, enjoy your screen time. Enjoy the TV. But when it's time to turn it off and pay attention to God, be willing to do so. When it's time to hang up the phone and listen to God, be willing to do so. When it's time to come home and pray and get before God, be willing to do so. When it's time to tell everybody in the world to shut up, it's time for God, be willing to do so.